boys. I got cupcakes.
D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. We hope you are having a wonderful Wednesday. I'm getting a little nervous about the snow, guys. I hate snow. I hate it so much. I hate it.
I'll take the snow. What I don't want is the really bad freezing rain, ice on the roads. That I've seen in this town. It's not pretty when that happens.
My wife did go to the grocery store again today, and she said it was nuts.
It's madhouse. I went this morning. It's madhouse, people. Stay safe. Get your groceries. Get home. All right.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, just stay home and order your grocery. Let people like me go to the store and get the grocery. I stopped being friends with snow around my teenage years when, one, I had to get up early in the morning, catch the bus at 6:30 to school, and then on weekends had to shovel it in front of my house after it's been stacked with about 3 or 4 feet of snow. Yes, people, 3 or 4 feet of snow. We're talking Michigan, not what they're expecting to get here. We're talking about times that. So that's when I broke up with Snow.
You broke up with Snow?
Yeah, Snow and I
don't date anymore.
Yeah, we don't date anymore. We don't even talk.
You guys don't even talk
No, we don't
anymore?
even talk. Why?
You're not on
No.
civil terms?
No, not even that.
Come on,
It was
not
that
even on
bad?
occasion.
No, I see. Hey, when I see snow, I turn around.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
What did they do?
I
to
don't
you,
seek
man?
out the snow, but
Mhm.
when snow comes my way, I'm okay with it.
I'm
Just
not.
don't
man.
give me the icy roads. That's what I don't want. The
Derek
ice.
is going to be out there with a flamethrower as the snow is about to fall. He's going to melt it all as it tries to fall onto his lawn.
I'm that person that, because we used to have to do this when I was little, and I hated it. I would be the person out there once it starts snowing. It'll get about once it covers for about an hour, so I go out there and I shovel it, and then it'll fall again. I go out. I don't know.
You
I
like to
don't
stay
like
ahead of it.
Yeah, I don't like snow on my sidewalk or my
Okay.
driveway.
Okay.
Nowhere.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
I'll bring you my extra snow. I'll pack it up for you, and I'll bring it over to your house. But that's later this weekend. But let's start here. To quote the great song from Crowded House from the 80s, Titans fans, don't dream, comma, it's over. Mike McDaniel is off the board. For those of you dreaming that Mike McDaniel would become the next offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans, he's expected to be hired by the Los Angeles Chargers. So Mike McDaniel apparently off the board.
We didn't want you anyway. Ain't that what people say? You go choose the other team.
You had complicated feelings about Mike
Yeah.
McDaniel,
No,
but
I like Mike McDaniel as a offensive coordinator. Head coach, no, but offensive coordinator, I mean, he's really good at his job. He's creative. He understands it. So as an offensive coordinator solely, yes, but anything beyond that, no.
But then there was this really interesting report from Diana Rossini of The Athletic. Speaking of The Athletic, Zach Rosenblatt, the Jets reporter for The Athletic, will join us in the next segment in roughly 15 minutes. He wrote a great story on The Athletic today about what the Titans are getting in Robert Saleh. I recommend it. We will talk to him about Robert Saleh's tenure in New York because he actually covered Saleh during his tenure with the Jets. So Zach Rosenblatt coming up in about 15 minutes. But Diana Rossini of The Athletic reported this morning, quote, the Eagles are conducting their offensive coordinator search with the understanding that Brian Daboll wants the Bills head coaching job. And by the way, did you see that train wreck of a news conference today in Buffalo with Terry Bagula?
Based on the results of our game in Denver, is what he said as to why they fired the coach. One game?
Yep.
Woo.
Knee-jerk reaction.
That doesn't sound like great.
And then the whole thing with Keon Coleman, that was bad.
Hey, Keon, pack your bags, buddy.
But Diana Rossini reported this morning, the Eagles are conducting their offensive coordinator search with the understanding that Brian Daboll wants the Bills head coaching job. If he doesn't land it, Daboll is expected to wind up in Tennessee as the offensive coordinator for Cam Ward and the Titans, per sources. Now, the only connection I can come up with between Robert Saleh and Brian Daboll is that they shared a home stadium for a few years because the Jets and Giants both play out of MetLife Stadium, but they haven't been on any of the same staffs unless I'm clearly missing something. So Daboll, his tenure in New York was mixed, but he was hired by the Giants to be their head coach after doing wonders with the Bills as their offensive coordinator. He was credited with spearheading the development of Josh Allen. So, Willie, Derek, what do you make of this potential marriage between Daboll and Saleh, at least according to Diana Rossini?
I hope it does work, for the sake of Cam Ward and, for this organization and the fan base. But I'm trying to find out what is the link between Saleh and Daboll. Obviously, there seem to be none, but there is a link between Daboll and Borgonzi. I hope that this is not a situation again for Saleh, and only Saleh knows, where he's facing the same sort of thing that he faced with the Jets, where management is pulling strings when it comes to your coaches. After they fired LaFleur after a year or two, I believe, and then he was forced to hire Nathaniel Hackett because of Aaron Rodgers, and that seems to have been a cluster, the whole thing. So I hope in this situation they may have met, in passing in meetings where coaches go to, and they may have gotten to know one another, and I hope that is indeed the case, because if it's not, then is this a Saleh hire? If indeed Daboll is hired, because we don't know if he's going to be hired. It's sort of like the Nagy, they had a relationship, so everybody just assumed that they were going to hire Nagy, but they went the opposite way. I wonder if this was solely a management deal, if indeed they do hire Daboll. And that's on the premise of if they do hire.
Fun fact.
Yes.
Mr. Spartan.
I know.
They were both at Michigan State at one point.
Saleh was at Michigan State?
Saleh and Daboll, both at Michigan State. Not at the same time.
No.
Only a couple of years apart.
Daboll was there the year after I left.
Daboll
was 98.
98 and 99.
So they never did cross paths.
They did not cross paths.
But
they have that connection.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They may have,
So who knows what the relationship is?
Who says go green and who says go white?
Whoever speaks up first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whoever
Go green.
Yeah. Go white. See.
Okay. That's how the drill works.
That's how it works. By the way, sorry to interrupt, Willie. To Derek's point, Nick Suss of the Tennessean pointed out that Brian Daboll briefly overlapped with Mike Borgonzi in 2012 when Daboll was the Chiefs offensive coordinator and Borgonzi was a pro scout. So they did work briefly together at Kansas City, but that was a long time ago.
So I do wonder the importance of that, the fact that Saleh and Daboll have not worked together, but it does look like, this guy appears to be a really tested offensive coordinator that's been a lot of places and done well in that role. And it's not like they never did anything when he was the coach for the Giants. He did have a couple of good years there. I'm really intrigued about the Buffalo thing, because at this point, Buffalo has backed themselves into a corner. They just fired an extremely successful coach, and it doesn't look like Vince Lombardi is sitting there on the street for them to bring in, right? They're like, yeah, fire the coach. Who are we gonna get? All right. You tell me. Daboll seems as good as anybody in terms of what he did there. But I'm sure some Bills fans are going, okay, he was really good here, but he just got fired with the Giants. Is this going to be better than what we just had? It's a fair question to be asking up there. So I'm curious where it goes with Daboll. So D-Mace, let me ask you. It's Daboll or the rest of the field? What do you hope happens for the Titans? Do you hope Daboll gets the job and they go elsewhere for offensive coordinator, or do you hope that Daboll ends up being the guy?
I hope that if Dable isn't the guy, they have a backup plan.
Well, I'm sure they have a backup plan.
No, I'm saying like
but who is it?
Because
Okay.
it's like you're waiting on Dable. You're waiting on him. He may, the Giants may make their announcement or may not. He may walk out of there and say, that's not for me and come to the Titans. But if indeed they start negotiating, it comes out, where do you pivot to? And who do you pivot to? As a offensive coordinator, do you pivot to a veteran sort of offensive coordinator? Do you pivot back toward Nagy as being your offensive coordinator? Or do you go for a young sort of up and coming offensive coordinator? Whoever it is, it's got to be right if indeed Dable takes the job.
Well, how about this, Adam? Here's another fun connection. I just made the Michigan State. What school did Dable, Mike Tomlin, and Sean McDermott all have a connection to?
Not West Virginia.
Which school?
Which college?
Oh, college.
Oh, I know.
From your neck of the woods.
The College
The
of William
Tribe.
and Mary.
The Tribe.
The
The
College of William and Mary.
Can you believe that? Those three guys all, at one point or another, were at that school.
Yes, that's
For one reason or another. Mike Tomlin played there.
Mhm.
Dable started his coaching career at William and Mary. And McDermott was there at some point.
well, one of the things that our next guest, Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic, wrote in his story about Saleh's tenure in New York and what he can learn from it as he takes on the Tennessee job, the offensive issues, because that was the biggest issue for Saleh in New York. Obviously, Zach Wilson wasn't the answer at quarterback. Mike LaFleur was his first offensive coordinator. He was unproven. He hires, or is maybe forced to hire, Nathaniel Hackett as his offensive coordinator to appease Aaron Rodgers. So his offensive staffs were not great with the Jets. So perhaps this is this is Robert Saleh learning something from his time in New York. I need an experienced, proven offensive play caller with history of developing a young quarterback. Enter Brian Daboll. So maybe Saleh's already learning something, right?
It could be. Daboll, the spot where he had the most success as far as developing was with the Bills. Now, if you look at he's had some bad quarterbacks. He really has. I went down the list. He's had some wherever he's been an offensive coordinator outside of Buffalo, it hadn't been good.
Daboll?
Yeah, as far as personnel wise. But I think this is a situation where, if they're able to get Brian Daboll, I think now they can start focusing, their sights or their, interest on possibly, players eventually, but they need to get this OC situation, done in a fashion where they believe they got their guy.
Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in Chad. Chad, thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's either going to be DeBall or Nagy will end up being your offensive coordinators. I think Brian would be the first choice, and Nagy's the fallback plan with the relationship with Benghazi. But I do think this is a really bad hire for the Titans if we're just calling a spade a spade. I mean, we've got precedent here. And I've listened to a lot of the talk shows and a lot of people trying to rewrite early history here. I mean, the New York Jets. I mean, the guy won. He had 4 years or almost 4 years. He won 35% of his games. And, that was allegedly, supposed to be when they brought Aaron Rodgers in. That was supposed to be at least a competitive team.
But what happened, though?
Wasn't
Wait,
competitive.
hold on. But he got hurt in the first game.
Yeah.
He didn't play the whole year.
But he was there for 2 years.
He came back the next year, but
He wasn't the same quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
And they fired him
But
after
the
5.
point is,
They fired him
that
after
was- that
5
roster-
games of that year.
Well, 4 years of being with the Jets, it just wasn't good. It wasn't.
Who
good
was
enough
his
to turn around and
quarterback?
Get a job.
Who were the quarterbacks?
Just generally speaking,
I get the
about
generally
whole
speaking, but
roster
you have to give context, right? You're looking at it as like a blank slate of you just looking at the wins and losses and making an assumption. Who are the quarterbacks?
Hey, I had this same exact argument with a year ago about Sam Darnold. Me and you went at it about Sam Darnold. I said it was a no-brainer signing for the Titans, and you argued me that I was the biggest idiot in the world. So, I mean, let's talk facts here. The facts are he didn't win, and he was not 4 years with the Jets was not good. It wasn't good enough to turn around and get another head coaching job is my point. And we can defend him, but I just don't think it's going to fit. And I think it's going to end up being one of these backup offensive coordinators that they're going to go with is going to end up being the Titans head coach in 16 months. And then we can call back in 16 months and we can have that conversation. But I just think it's a bad hire. I really think it was a panic hire. And we've got modern day history here that we cannot rewrite. He was not good for 3.5 years with the Jets with every resource imaginable. Now we can break down the quarterbacks, and you're right about that. But that's a piece of the puzzle, and I agree with you. But
okay, let me ask you one
overall,
question. Can anybody win with Zach Wilson as their quarterback?
You know what?
Could any coach have done it?
Well, let's see where Zach Wilson's headed. Probably the Zach Wilson was. We've got a lot of these quarterbacks. Sam Darnold being the top of the list that weren't good round one. That most athletes, and they'll
Zach
tell you
Wilson
this,
is the third string quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, who was passed over for Quinn
quarterbacks-
Ewers when Tua Tagovailoa was benched. To be
Not
fair,
many quarterbacks are good at age 22, 23. I'll tell you that.
Okay,
In fact,
so you're just making the argument for me that
No, hey, we're not
nobody
disagreeing
could have
about the
won with
quarterback.
Zach Wilson in those days.
Yeah, but what Robert, my point about this hire is he lost the locker room. And that, to me, is a big red flag, and you're going to turn around and hire him and then crown him. I just don't think he was the hire. Just and I think I'm going to be right about this. I think we're going to look down the road here in a year and a half. I think we're going to have a repeat situation with the Jets where we all can agree on this. Culture is winning or losing. Losing is a culture. Winning is a culture. The reason the New England Patriots are going to the AFC Championship game, they have a winning culture. It's hard to create a winning culture. What worries me, and hey, I'm a fan, Willie. I'm one of your biggest supporters, so we can go at it like brothers.
No,
I mean, that's
I agree.
probably
I like the debate.
But the problem I have is when you take a potential losing culture, which you can argue the Titans have become a losing culture, and you bring in a coach from a losing culture, and then you say this is the answer. That scares me. That's my main point. All your points are valid. I hope you guys have a great day, though.
Thank you, Chad.
Okay, I want to say this
quickly because we have to get to Zach Rosenblatt.
It's not just black and white. There's context. When he first got there, they had a culture. It was a good one that he was building. But when management tells you who to hire, when to hire, and how to hire them, and give that one person carte blanche over basically the whole organization, what is he to do as a coach? I'm going to tell you, as a former player, if I see that the coach has no power whatsoever, in that he's letting one guy that seems to be tearing down the locker room, it's not his fault. You need to be talking to Woody Johnson and everybody else above him. The Jets was a toxic environment. It was a bad organization. I'm telling y'all that. And from the day I left to even now, it's still a bad organization. And they've brought several coaches through there. You talk about winning organization. You talk about winning cultures. That's a bad culture. And anybody that comes in and try to change it, the only way it's going to get changed is if the owner moves out of the way and let them change the culture.
615-737-1025. Zach Rosenblatt, who covered Robert Saleh when he was with the New York Jets, will join us coming up next. He will provide that context of how we should evaluate Saleh's tenure, his 20-36 record as head coach of the New York Jets. We'll do that with Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic coming up next. 615-737-1025. Preds fans, Smashville Live is back tonight at 6 p.m. on 1025 The Game, live from Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue. Meet your Predators players up close and personal. You can also get autographs and pictures. The guests tonight, Cole Smith and Michael McCarron. That's Cole Smith and Michael McCarron tonight, Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue, and only on 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, and welcome in the Athletics' Zach Rosenblatt, who reports on the New York Jets. Hi, Zach. How are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good, guys. How you doing?
We're doing well. So, as you can probably guess, we are starting to evaluate Robert Saleh as the Titans head coach now that he has been hired by the Titans. And from afar, you can look at the record in New York, 20-36. You can look at all of the drama with Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, etc. But as someone who actually covered the Jets when Robert Saleh was coaching the team, what is the proper way to evaluate his tenure there, and how do you expect him to handle a second chance?
Yeah. I mean, it's not the best answer, but I think the word that just comes to mind is complicated. It was a very complicated tenure because I think there was a lot that was working against him. If you look at like some of the things behind the scenes with ownership and, some of the drama with Aaron Rodgers and all that stuff. While I also think there's a lot of things he could have done a lot better that led to a lot of their issues too. So it was like a combo of a lot of things. And the biggest one at the end of the day was that they never had a quarterback or an offensive coordinator ultimately that was able to like have the offense match up to what their defense was doing. And so they never won more than 7 games at the end of the day.
In your story for The Athletic today, which I highly recommend to Titans fans, the headline, "In Robert Saleh, what are the Titans getting? Lessons from his Jets tenure." You point out that the biggest question for Saleh to answer in Tennessee is his plan for the offense. Your colleague at The Athletic, Diana Russini, reported earlier today that Brian Daboll is expected to wind up in Tennessee as the OC for Cam Ward in the Titans if he doesn't get the Bills job. Now, the only connection I know of between Saleh and Daboll is that they shared a home stadium for a couple of years. So how do you think that pairing would work if Daboll was the offensive coordinator for Robert Saleh?
Well, funny story about them, actually. I think when Daboll was hired, I believe Daboll was hired after Saleh, right? Yeah, he was. So they lived near each other, I believe, and that Saleh invited Daboll and his family over to like go swim in their pool or something. So I don't know if they kept in touch after that. Maybe they did, but I think they did bond over like being New York coaches. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, like they need to hit this OC hire, and if Daboll is the guy, like there is some merit to him being the one to where Robert can be like, okay, I'm going to focus on the defense because I think Robert will probably call plays for the Titans. Hand the keys to somebody like Daboll on offense. Whereas when he was in New York, his first OC was Michael Flohr, who I think showed some promise, but was a first-time OC and he made some mistakes. And then, Woody Johnson forced Robert to fire him after 2 years, and then he replaced him with Nate Hackett, probably to appease Aaron Rodgers. But Hackett is, frankly, one of the worst offensive coordinators I've ever covered. So it was kind of a disaster in that front. So if you could bring Daboll in and you could create an environment for Cam Ward where it works, then I think this marriage could work. A Daboll, Cam Ward, Robert Saleh trio like that, I could see that working. There's a lot, there's a lot to say where you could say Daboll, outside of Josh Allen, his offenses haven't been great, but it's an interesting pairing. And out of the options that are out there now, that like Mike McDaniel's off the board, like I think Daboll makes a lot of sense.
Now we had a caller call in right before you got on, and he was concerned about not Daboll, but Saleh and him losing a locker room the way he did in New York. Now, it didn't seem like it started off that way. Did he lose it because of what was happening above him, or did he lose it because the guys just lost faith in him?
I wouldn't say he like fully lost the locker room. Like I don't think it was a locker room where guys like didn't respect him anymore or guys were like turning on each other. I think one of the problems Robert ran into is I don't think he was hard enough on these guys. Like I think there was, maybe a lack of accountability that they needed. And part of that had to do with, they went all in on Aaron Rodgers, and I don't blame them for doing it at the time. They needed a quarterback and he was the best one available, and they couldn't have done any better than him. But you brought him in, you catered to him, you let him bring in his friends. I think Robert had a hard time criticizing Aaron, and so they really put him on a pedestal. So you had one player on a pedestal while you're also trying to coach up all these other guys and have them listen to you. And I think that became an issue at the end of the day. And it's not to say that Aaron was a bad teammate or guys didn't like him, because I do think they did. But I think that ultimately hurt his ability to kind of lead the entire team when you're kind of making it clear that Aaron is above you. He's not one of the guys. And I think that was a mistake ultimately. And I think as you look at Tennessee, I think the best Robert Saleh ever was in early 2022. They start 6-3, and they do it on the backs of a great defense led by young guys like Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams and Quincy Williams and DJ Reed. And an offense, they have Garrett Wilson kind of doing his thing, and Brees Hall and some O-linemen showing some promise. And so it was a young group that was really like, they had the energy and they were playing for each other. And I think as the Jets tried to go all in to make the Super Bowl, it backfired when you had a lot of veterans and Pro Bowlers and personalities that didn't feel like they needed to be as much part of the team.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here. He didn't call defensive plays there with the Jets, did he, Saleh?
No, he did not. Jeff Ulbrich did.
Okay. Now, I asked that because you look at the situation he was in, and I know it was a complicated situation, but this is a guy that was just the CEO, and now he comes here and potentially it seems like in some articles that I read that he feels more alive when he's calling plays, and that's great. Yeah. So how do he go from, not calling plays and not being able to get that team where they need to go to now being the head coach and potentially calling plays? How do you see that going?
So I think the biggest thing for me, and you said it makes him feel alive. Like I think that is important for him because I think for him, you remember his days in San Francisco before this last year, but he was known for like just being this high energy, run around long up and down the sidelines, screaming. He gets to the Jets, he's the head coach, he's the CEO. He really like throttles back on that, I think, too much. And I think he kind of lost himself a little bit to where by the end you had fans who would get so mad because they'd be losing, they'd be making mistakes, they'd be getting penalized. And he's just stone-faced on the sideline, like not kind of reacting to anything. And that was, I think there's a lot of coaches that are like that, but it didn't feel like his personality. Like it felt like he was kind of, missing part of himself. And then you saw him go back and do that in San Francisco this year. And I think that's when he had the realization, like, when I'm a little more involved in the play-by-play and running the defense, like I think his energy and his emotion comes back. And that's why I think also the OC is so crucial. Like if Robert's not going to be the CEO, he needs an OC that he can just be like, okay, you just take care of the offense and I'm going to really hone in on the defense and make it great.
We're talking to Zach Rosenblatt. He covers the Jets for The Athletic. He's got a really good piece on the new Titans head coach, Robert Saleh. Zach, I was intrigued about how you handle the media and some of the chapters, because I think we could all say in New York, you're under a microscope unlike any other place. And of course, Nashville is quite a bit different, but it's still, because you dominate so much of the headlines in a smaller market like Nashville, it's still going to be important how he interacts with the media. So share, for people that haven't read the article, some of the observations you had about him sort of letting the noise get to him at times.
Yeah, he did. I think he was really, really too focused on trying to control the narrative, control what people were saying about him, about his team. And I think he took it a little too personally when, whether it's writers or radio or, the New York Post back page or whatever it is. Like I think he at times took that a little too personal and let it get to him and let him affect, the way he went about, doing things and saying things. And I think as a coach, my best recommendation would always be just to not read anything and don't go on social media, because I just don't see any benefit for a coach in particular. So, I think he knows that. I hope that he learned the right lessons in terms of you're not going to be able to control the narrative. You're not going to be able to control what people are saying about you. So at the end of the day, just like do your thing. And he was like, in terms of defensive football, he's one of the best there is in this league. Like the Jets defense, by a lot of metrics, was top 5 defense in two of the years that he was the coach from start to finish. So, there's something to be said about him just focusing on that and not the outside noise, because he did not handle it well. He was also really focused on, stuff would get leaked out, and it became like a mission for him to find where the leaks were. And it became to a point where people on his staff would be like, why are we focused so much on this? Like this happens in every building. So I hope you learn the right lessons, because if you remove like the distraction stuff, I think you can be a pretty good coach.
That is something to watch for. Curious to see if in the second go round, how do you adjust? Let me ask you this, Zach. Did it surprise you that they fired him when they did? With Aaron Rodgers playing, they were 2-3. It's not like they were out of it. Was that a quick trigger there, or do you think it was time?
Well, not only did I think it was surprising, I was on vacation when it happened, so I definitely didn't see it coming. So, I was in the middle of Paris with my wife, because the Jets were in London, and my wife and I went to Paris for a couple of days. and I find out that he was getting fired as we're like walking to the Eiffel Tower. So my wife has a photo of me on my phone. But so yeah, it was definitely shocking. I think the timing of it, it didn't make a lot of sense then. It still doesn't in retrospect because, there was conversation going into the previous offseason, like, they probably should move on from Mike Vrabel's available, for example. Like there's all these coaches that were available that offseason. They announced he was coming back in part because Rodgers wanted him. And then 5 games into the season, they're 2-3. They're still in it. Woody Johnson decides to rip off the Band-Aid early and, go to Jeff Ulbrich, and the defense fell apart. The team fell apart, and it was a complete disaster from there. And it's not to say they would have made the playoffs with Robert. I think there were signs that, things were starting to come undone with him. But after 5 weeks, it was pretty shocking. I think Robert in particular, I think he was blown away by that. Like, I think it really threw him off guard. I think he had a hard time getting over that for a little bit. I think he did a lot of reflection. I know he went to work for the Packers for a bit. He went to the 49ers. And I think in that time, he probably formulated what it would look like the next time he got a shot. And now he's getting it, maybe even earlier than I thought he would. But I'm very curious to see how he handles things now.
Here's the thing that gets thrown around Nashville a lot, Zach, and you'll probably get a snicker out of this. Of course, I grew up in New York, so I understand both markets a little bit. But people say, and I grew up watching the Jets a lot, but people say, hey, look, he was 20-36 or whatever it was, but, quote, it's the Jets, right? So how fair is that when you evaluate Saleh, and how much do you say, well, yeah, the Jets are the Jets with their history, but he could have done better?
Yeah, I mean, that what you just said there is kind of what my message meant. I think there's been, a tendency, in especially the national media, as the season's gone along, like everybody just acting like he didn't have a 20-36 record. Like at the end of the day, he was the coach of that team, and there are a lot of things he did wrong. And yeah, he didn't have a quarterback, and the offense was a mess, and he had to deal with Woody Johnson, but he still did some things wrong. Like, and so he needs to prove that he is not a coach with that winning percentage. Like the only way he can do that is by winning games in Tennessee. And, they're giving him a long contract and worth a lot of money to say that he's the right guy. And we're going to find out. Like he's getting, in theory, the quarterback. And if he gets Daboll, he has the offensive coordinator. And, you won't be able to make that excuse anymore if it doesn't work with those guys.
Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic has been our guest on D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick. He reports on the New York Jets. He has a story on The Athletic today with the headline, "In Robert Saleh, what are the Titans getting? Lessons from his Jets tenure," which I highly recommend for Titans fans as they are getting to know their next head coach. Zach, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate your insight.
Yeah, great talking to you guys.
615-737-1025. We will react to what Zach had to say. You can as well. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
If you've injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible or nothing at all. But Law Tigers fights to get the compensation you deserve, and they don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired or better yet replaced. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South, and that's Nashville, Tennessee. Also, do not forget to go to predatorsbike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predators Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City Indian. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Predators fans, be listening because soon I'll give you an opportunity to win a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Ottawa Senators tomorrow at Bridgestone Arena. So be listening for that cue to call at 615-737-1025. We thank Zach Rosenblatt from The Athletic for joining us, breaking down Robert Saleh's tenure with the New York Jets, providing the context and insight that we don't have because we didn't cover Robert Saleh as head coach of the New York Jets. We want to react to that, but first, let's go to our phone line and welcome in Mike from Old Hickory. Mike, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yep. Now we have the new coach, and what I want to ask, though, is a money question. Is he been hired on for the full 5 years, fully guaranteed?
Thank you for the call, Mike. I'm not sure how coaching contracts work.
It's fully guaranteed until they fire you, and then they still got to pay you.
They have to pay you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be written into the contract that it's offset if you get another job.
If you get
right?
another job,
Right,
then
right.
they don't have to. They only pay a portion, or maybe not even none of it.
It's
So
been
I guess that's what he's asking.
Yeah.
Because fully guaranteed to me would be like regardless of you
Yeah.
get another job.
It's
somewhere.
been reported that it is a 5-year contract for Robert Saleh as head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
Maybe they're
Willie,
negotiating that right now.
Yeah.
And why it still hasn't been officially announced, right?
yeah, I'm sort of
No.
surprised by that. Willie, what struck you from our conversation with Zach Rosenblatt? What stood out to you?
I think what stood out to me the most was, and I read it in the article, was his clash with the New York media, his willingness to sort of go out and try to influence the New York media, which is impossible to do. And if you do it, you probably need to already be established as a winning coach to have any chance of being successful. Because that's just too big of a bite off of the apple. You're not gonna win that battle. So I hope he learned.
I see what you did there, Apple.
Yeah.
New York. I
Okay,
see what you did there.
just slip it in there. But I feel like he hopefully has learned from that
Mhm.
and will not go down that road here. It's a very different market, as we know. But we also know that the Titans dominate the sports talk airwaves. It's the way it goes. So, relatively speaking, everything he says is going to be scrutinized, overreacted to, analyzed to the point of paralysis by analysis. He's got to live with that. Hopefully, he's at a different stage of his career now and won't be bothered by the small stuff, which clearly got to him. Like there's an example of him texting a sports talk show host and a wacky one, right? I think if you know anything about New York and WFAN, Joe Benigno famously was a caller to the station. He just called the station all the time. Eventually, they hired him as the overnight sports talk show guy. He's a unequivocated, is that the right word? He is a unapologetic Jets fan who got handed the job on a huge radio station, and he's been there for, 30 years now. And the coach of the New York Jets is texting him, which I guess he thought was private. And of course, the sports talk host went
It was
public
something about
and said,
Zach Wilson. I can't remember
right,
the exact.
something about, hey, I don't know if I really wanted Zach Wilson or something like that he thought was private, and it did not reflect well on Saleh at all. So I thought, because Saleh comes across to me when he's leading a meeting, like you watch in the Hard Knocks, when you watch in a press conference, I think he's got a good presence to him. But that surprised me a little bit to hear about that.
Yeah, typically you don't see, or you don't hear about coaches, texting, reporters, and it's at least nothing like that where then it's put out so everybody can read it. I just hope that, because even though this market isn't, and I'm putting in quotations, New York, I think you still have people that do their job and do it at a high level.
Yeah. You got to be savvy with how you handle the media.
Exactly. So you're still going to have to, know how to handle the media. Just because it's not New York media doesn't mean that the journalists and people that report on the Titans, they're not going to come at you at a way where they're trying to get answers for whatever's going on, whether it be good or bad. They're not just going to let you float around here and not do a half-assed job and them not ask you the tough questions, they will. So I wonder how now he handles this, because he didn't have to deal with it when he went to San Francisco. He was the DC. So how does he handle? And then the one thing I want to know too is, and that's why I asked Black the question, him being a CEO and still not being able to get the job done the way it needed to be done. I know there were a lot of circumstances there with the Jets that he had to overcome. So you go from not calling plays to just being a CEO, and you still lose your job. Now, if you do, now that you're here, I assume that you are going to be calling defensive plays, because in the article that was wrote, Black, he did mention that Saleh, it's a certain energy that he gets when he calling plays, so he feels more in the game. Okay, can you handle concentrating on the defense all while being a CEO? Brian Callahan couldn't handle it.
Right.
And he quickly had to, after a year, he had to give up his duties. That's another question that is going to be out there, and we're not going to know until he starts coaching.
And he's not inheriting a great defense. And with the Jets, he had players on that defense, and they had a really good defense, a defense you could win with. But the offense was equally as bad. A lot of it because of Zach Wilson could not figure it out. And they also did not have a good offensive line.
I think the word Zach Rosenblatt used to describe Robert Saleh's time in New York is complicated. Yeah. And I think that is the correct word, because as Rosenblatt said, the record still shows he had 20 wins and 36 losses as head coach of the New York Jets. That is the worst winning percentage in Jets history of any coach who coached at least 40 games for the franchise. And that franchise has been down bad for a long time. The Jets are tied with the Buffalo Sabres for the longest active playoff drought in North American major professional sports. It has been 15 years since the New York Jets made the playoffs. So it is complicated. There is some of that, as you said, Willie, it's the Jets. Mm-hmm. Some of that is baked into there. I think Rosenblatt is correct to say that's part of it, but that doesn't tell the whole story. I think that's an important piece of information there.
But I feel like I watched enough of those games back then, because it was an intriguing team, the Jets. They played the Titans a couple times in there. Remember, they beat a good Titans team for Saleh's first win. Mm-hmm. And it was Zach Wilson's first win. Who was the kicker at the time? He missed the game-tying field goal. I can't remember which of the 50 Titans kickers that Mike Vrabel had, but he missed it on the last play in the Meadowlands, and the Titans still managed to win the division.
It was Randy Bullock.
Randy Bullock.
Yes.
There we go.
There you go. But I remember watching those Jets teams and saying, Breece Hall's a really good player. Garrett Wilson's a really good player. Mm-hmm. Their defense is nasty. And they were in a lot of games against the Bills and the Patriots and the Dolphins when Tua had it working. But Zach Wilson was so inept, it just killed the whole team. So I try to remember that. I mean, that's just my recollection from afar. How much Saleh could have done differently to get more out of that team, I don't know. I guess people who watch them every week could probably give you details. But that was the overriding theme for me every time. And the announcers were always all over it. Zach Wilson he never had the good game.
Cameron on our text line says the only defense anyone can make for Saleh is saying it's the Jets. Well, the Titans are maybe the only franchise in the league that can challenge the Jets for most incompetent. So how will it be better here? We need a guy who can overcome incompetence.
Okay, people. We're not too far, and I get it. It's been bad the last 3 years, 3.5. I know it's been bad, but this team is not that far removed from being one of the best teams in the National Football League for a consecutive period of years. We're talking they had 4 or 5
I
years
think they
where
had 6 straight winning seasons.
Exactly.
Couple division titles.
So we're, and it's all. this is what we sort of fall into. It's the prisoner of the moment. What's going on in the moment? And I know the moment has been a little bit too long for the Titans, but there's no way in hell that I think the Titans are anywhere near a dumpster fire than what the Jets are. Anywhere near a dumpster fire. What the Washington Commanders seem to be. Exactly. There are some organizations out there that are bad, that have been losing for a long. Look what was going on in Miami. They've been winning, but it's just bad down in South Florida. We don't know that a lot of times because we're not paying attention to those teams. And I don't expect a Titan fan to pay attention to what's going on in Arizona, places like that, or the Raiders, where it's bad too. And it has been bad for a very long time. So you want to talk about dumpster fire organizations? Just because they got Tom don't mean that they're still not a dumpster fire, because they are. There are a few teams in front of the Titans, in regards to dumpster fire before I even get to the Titans.
Fair enough. One texter says, Eli says, we know Saleh is a great defensive coach and should be a good head coach if he keeps people from living rent-free in his head. So, Robert, if you're listening, don't text us. Don't text us. Let's go to Connor on our phone line. Connor, thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Hey, that was quicker than I thought it was going to be. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Gotcha.
I was just in Costco and was watching people pile up toilet paper, paper towels, milk, like everybody's going to die. It's like I realize that none of us are ever going to agree on anything, but it's like that last text about our only defense, and it's like Derek said, we were in the AFC Championship not long ago. Everybody acts like we're just the most miserable franchise, and it's not even close. And I look at Saleh. He's a man. He's a leader of men. He had top 3, if not number 1 EPA, like all of those ratings with the Jets.
Now you're speaking my language.
Quarterback, and he had Woody Johnson, like telling him, we're going to move practice times. We're like Aaron Rodgers isn't going to stay in the hotel. It's like, so I don't know how much of that is Saleh's fault as opposed to like Woody Johnson saying, hey, your hands are off of this. Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers are going to take over the show, and you can't do anything about it. And it's like, that's a terrible situation to be in. I think the guy's going to be great. And if we get an offensive coordinator like Dable or Slowick, I think I'm really excited about this. I just think people are just, I don't know what kind of world some people live in, but they're the ones at Costco driving me insane.
So all of the weird callers, they're all at Costco right now.
Yeah, they're all at Costco right now.
That's good info.
I don't know whether it's going to work with Saleh or not. I'm taking the same approach with Saleh that I took with Brian Callahan. Hey, listen, they hired him. They loved him. They hired him for a reason. I hope he can come in here and get this ship back headed in the right direction.
I thought you were about to say something completely different than ship.
With a P, yes.
You had me nervous there. You had me racing towards the dump button.
But doesn't it illustrate, though, that I don't care how much of the, quote, leader of men you are, you need some players.
Yes.
And you need a little bit of luck. Like you need to have, when you get a job and it's a building process, you need somebody to draft you some good players. You need a couple of unexpected guys to get good. You can't just magically do it all by yourself as the coach.
615-737-1025 will continue to take your reaction on Robert Saleh, who has not yet been announced officially as the Titans' next head coach, or at least I haven't seen it, and it's been days now, but it's going to happen. 615-737-1025. Coming up next, speaking of Brian Callahan, Jeffery Simmons made some interesting comments about the Titans culture that have made the rounds. We will play and discuss those on the other side. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick 1025. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, and David Janes here with you. Predators fans, be listening this hour because I have a pair of tickets to give away for the game tomorrow night against the Ottawa Senators at Bridgestone Arena. So be listening for your cue to call this hour if you want to go to the Predators game tomorrow night against the Ottawa Senators. Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Wes from Hermitage. Hello, Wes. What's up?
Man, just out here hanging out at Costco. I ain't got nothing else better to do.
You're at Costco too?
No, I'm working, man.
Okay.
I'm working.
You're not one of the angry people just getting all the toilet paper?
You know, I did that stuff a couple days ago, and I may have jumped a little too soon because now I'm like, oh, I forgot this, I forgot that, and I got to get back out into it. Not very excited about that. So here's my first question. Would y'all agree that Brian Callahan not kicking Jeffery Simmons out of practice was not a good look for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
We would agree with that.
Okay. My issue, I hear everybody talking about Saleh's tenure with the Jets. Well, I have an issue with Saleh's tenure with the Jets, but it's not the win-loss record because you have to throw that out the window when the owner starts talking about drafting players due to Madden grades, okay? Nothing else is relevant after that. So my problem is I don't know if Saleh is a leader of men. And I think they may have just hired a defensive mind version of Brian Callahan. And I say that because I've listened to a couple of different shows, and everybody's got their own opinion of the hire. But when there was some leaked information that came out of the Jets locker room, a couple people have talked on this, but I don't think how he handled that was very leader of men like. And I just kind of want y'all to touch on that a little bit. It just seems like he wanted everybody to come together as a family and nobody all right, who said something? Come to the front of the class so we can slap your hand on the wrist, but no one's going to get in trouble. I don't know, man. And there's nothing about the win-loss record that says that he's going to be a good coach. So I'm looking for other things, and this stood out to me. So what are y'all's thoughts?
I
Thank you,
admit
Wes.
that that's the most surprising thing I have found out since they hired Saleh, and you start studying more about a particular guy, the interaction with the New York media. I was not aware of that because in New York, with the number of people covering the team, there's no way you're going to plug up all the leaks. I think I've seen it get done in this market with the two teams on a fairly realistic level, right? You can keep somewhat of a lid on it. You've got no chance in New York, just simply because the number of people that are following and the competition of all the newspapers, et cetera, they're going to find unnamed sources. You cannot control it. So I don't know why he didn't realize that.
I think Wes's call there leads us nicely into what we're going to talk about next. So Jeffery Simmons was on the Bussin' with the Boys podcast with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton. This was recorded earlier this week, I think. And he's made a couple of comments. He made a couple of comments, in the past tense. He made a couple of comments in this interview with Bussin' with the Boys that have made the rounds about the differences in the Titans under Mike Vrabel versus Brian Callahan. And we're going to play and discuss a few of them now. Let's start with the first clip. Jeffery Simmons just detailing generally the differences, between the Titans under Vrabel and under Callahan.
When Callahan first got in, and it's no knock to Callie. Callie is a great guy. He's a great coach. I don't think it was just the time for that because, going from Vrabel, we all knew what it looked like. The guys who've been there, me, Hook, we knew what it looked like to not let things slip. I feel like in the past, first maybe the year or so when we got the coaching change, we're going through the coaching change, and you guys saw the roster. I mean, we got maybe 6 or 7 rookies playing at one point of the season. So it's like when you have such a young team, what can you really fall back on? Who are the Tennessee Titans, and what do we really stand for? And I guess we didn't have that.
So that's one of the comments. that Jeffery Simmons made comparing and contrasting Mike Vrabel's Titans to Brian Callahan's Titans. There was something else he said as well. And when I heard these comments, my first thought, rightly or wrongly, was this is why the Titans hired Robert Saleh, because Saleh clearly convinced the Titans that he would do the things that Brian Callahan apparently didn't. Here is yet another snippet of Jeffery Simmons' interview with Bussin' with the Boys.
From Callahan's, it sounds like Callahan came in a little lighter, happy to be around, look at us, kumbaya. Hey, look at all the good things we did, even though we lost. And then when it really comes crunch time, it's like we're spiraling. If he went and was hard on the guys all of a sudden, that's when you lose a locker room completely. So it's almost better to be extremely critical of your players, break them down foundationally, build them back up, and then be able to be their friends.
I think that's just called being a coach. Yeah, you know, it's not, like I said, it's no knock. Like
We're not knocking Callahan.
I love Callahan. Like I text Callahan like right now, like, you know, he'll respond. But it just, when you're talking about the NFL, we saw with this morning with the with Buffalo.
McDermott?
With Buffalo, like, I'm sure that guy's a great leader. I'm sure he's hard as hell on the players. He loves his players. But this league is about winning. Like, you don't win football games. You don't get the teams to where they need to be in the amount of time. You're gone.
Yeah.
So being nice is not the way this thing's going to work. You have to set your foundation. You have to have a strong set foundation.
So that was Jeffery Simmons again on Bussin' with the Boys. Derek, you've had this sort of pensive look on your face as you've been listening to these clips. What did you think of them?
Because I mean, listen, Jeff, there's two things about this. Jeff is right. Everything he said. Nice is a novelty in football. Being nice is a novelty. I mean, you want it, but it ain't gonna happen. I mean, you can't be that way. I mean, you can be firm, assertive, and be a player's coach, but there also has to be this line where players know I'm the coach, you're the player, period. And it's just about the respect factor. So Jeff was right about that. What it basically boils down to is winning games. If you ain't winning games for me right now, then you got to go. Look at what they did to Bill Belichick. He stopped winning games, so they got his ass up out of there. The part that I'm sort of confused about is this, and Jeff has gotten a lot better, and we've praised Jeff for it. But Jeff, you started this. The whole, going at a reporter or fighting and the head coach not kicking you out. You lost respect. Like if the guys that I've been around, and again, Jeff isn't the guy that I'm talking about now. The guy that I'm talking about now isn't the Jeff now. The guy that I'm talking about now was more of the me guy. He was more of the, I want to dominate everything. I'm not worried about anything else. I just want to dominate. And if it throws somebody, so be it. But it's about me and dominating. He's gotten a lot better now. He's about team. He's about being a leader. But when you have arguably the best player on your team show up your head coach basically fighting and the head coach don't throw him out, are you then going to respect him? You're not. I don't care what you say, because nothing changed after that. I mean, nothing changed as far as, and Taylor's right. You can't be nice and then all of a sudden I got to, throw down the hand of law. You can't do that in this world. You can't. You got to start off that way. And I'm not the whole breaking players down and all. No. You just got to start off a certain way. If that's you. If it's not you, you can't start off that way, because I'm a figure that out real quick. Real quick. If you're not the guy that you're pretending to be, players will figure that out real quick. So if you are that, sort of leader of men and you're tough and that's what you always have to show. Brian Callahan's problem was that never was him. And they took advantage of that. And I'm not saying they knowingly took advantage of it, meaning the players, his first year, but they took advantage of him not standing on 10 toes and saying, this is my team. Things are changing around here. That's why Jeffery, he said it. I know how that stuff looked. Well, if you know how it looked, you should have never put your coach in a situation like that. So now other guys are looking like, hell, they ain't kick Jeffery out, so I can.
No.
And that's how it That's how it ended up, basically.
And couple that for Callahan, right, with what you're talking about, which I think is legit, looking back on it, but also the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
You know, the Will Levis, he just didn't respond, right? The number one project, the number one goal to get him off the ground, it went really, really haywire. The offensive line problems. You brought in your dad to be the savior of the offensive line. That didn't go well. So you had all of these other things. You simply did not have a roster that had a lot of really good players. So you put all that together and you've got a total disaster. This again goes to my point of you might be the best coach of creating that environment, that culture. But if you have too many other things working against you, I'm not sure how successful you can be. Again, coming back to Saleh and how do we interpret 20-36 on the Jets? I'm sure he could go back and look and say, you know what, I should have handled this or that better. But ultimately, that's a tough hand to be dealt in that organization, in that market, with the quarterbacks he had.
Yeah, because your first job that you get as a head coach, whatever demeanor you have, you have to make sure that regardless it doesn't matter if you think I'm a coach friendly guy or player friendly guy or not, there needs to be a no throughout that locker room, or an understanding throughout that locker room that I am the head coach. These are things that we're going to get done. Do you think Tony Dungy, and I know guys that played for him, do you think Tony Dungy, he was the nicest guy, but Tony had something about him that was leadership. He didn't have to yell
something authentic.
Exactly. Something. He wasn't trying to be something that he wasn't. He was just, and people gravitated and they loved it and they respected it. However Saleh is, that's who he needs to be. Whatever Saleh was at San Fran both times, that's the Saleh he needs to be. He don't need to be any other Saleh. If that means he's getting on a podium and cursing, do it. That's you. That's the only way those players are going to respect you and run through a wall for you. If they see that you're something contrary to what you're telling everybody, everybody's going to stop. Ain't nobody going through a wall for you.
I described Robert Saleh the other day as Vrabel adjacent. He and Vrabel are not the same coach, but they're in similar genres. They have that presence. They look like football players. I would want them by my side in a bar fight, which probably would still not go well for me, but at least I'd have Vrabel and Saleh by my side. Maybe some people wouldn't want to mess with me with those two there. But Saleh must have convinced the Titans during his interview process that, hey, I can handle these players in a way that Brian Callahan didn't. As Wes said on the call earlier, I don't know if Saleh can, but again, Willie, he must have said something to the Titans in that meeting that they don't need to worry about that with him. I don't know if it's actually going to work.
If the Albert Breer column, which was very detailed and seemed to come from some pretty good sources, the theme coming out of it, what won him the job probably was that Saleh seems to remind the Titans of Vrabel. True?
Yes.
Yeah, demeanor-wise, yeah.
Now, Saleh was not an NFL player with Super Bowl rings like Vrabel. But I think when you watch him command the 49er defense and stuff, he's got that respect. He's got that connection with the players. We're going through his time as a head coach with the Jets, but he definitely won them over in the interview. But we could say the same thing about Callahan. He won them over with the whole, I'm a quarterback guru. And it didn't work.
Don't even do an interview. Just show up when camp starts. Don't do an interview. I don't want to see no interviews, because the only thing that's going to be talked about is whether he won it or lost the interview, the whole podium.
Oh, yeah.
He won the day.
The press conference.
He lost the press conference. He won the press conference.
I think Brian Callahan won the press conference.
Oh, he won the press conference big time. He and ran. And what happened to both of them? I don't care if you win the press conference or not. Matter of fact, don't even have one. Just send out a press release as you've already done. And the only time I want to see him is when you start scouting for the NFL draft or free agency. Then he can start talking.
615-737-1025 Sam on our text line. We don't have this clip, Sam, but we were going to talk about this. Sam says, play the clip of Simmons talking about Bones Fossil running the Friday film review. When Callahan was hired, he was praised from the Bengals for being the guy who was prepared and kept everything smooth for them. We never saw that in Tennessee. Why wasn't Callahan or the OC running tape? Derek would probably agree it's not Bones' fault, but having a special teams coordinator leading your final film review just doesn't sit right with the players. Interested to hear Derek's take on Bones running that. What was his experience like back in the day for Friday? So, for context, one of the things that Jeffery Simmons talked about with Taylor Lewan and Will Compton on Bussin' with the Boys was the Friday film review, the teach tape, I think is what it's called. And Simmons explained, and Lewan and Compton would know, they also played for Mike Vrabel, that Vrabel would run those meetings. And you better have been prepared for those meetings because Vrabel would call on you, and if you didn't get the answer right, you would be ridiculed. According to Jeffery Simmons, Bones Fossil was running those meetings on Fridays, and he paraphrasing here, said, no disrespect to Bones Fossil, but shouldn't the head coach be doing this?
I mean, listen, Bones has some experience of being a head coach as an interim, but he has some experience. In a sense, yes. I see what Jeffrey's saying. You want your head coach to lead those corrections or whatnot. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where the head coach didn't lead it necessarily. Now, each individual team, whether it be special teams, the offensive unit, or the defensive unit, once we break up, special teams, then Bones will come in and sort of go over what went right and what went wrong on the special teams unit. And sometimes they do that in conjunction with the whole team. Sometimes I've had it with special teams coaches. I've gotten up there with the whole team in there and go over corrections and stuff. So, I mean, so it does happen, but it's not like a frequent thing where another coach may run, that. But listen, the Titans was that whole situation this past year. I mean, to me, they knew they were firing Callahan. And if that is indeed the case, if you're leaning more so at firing a guy, just fire him and start the process of getting you a new coach that upcoming season. When they hired McCoy, they knew that more likely than not, I believe, they were going to fire Callahan. If that is the case, then fire him at the beginning of the season. Don't before the season even starts, because then you will not have dysfunction during the season and players coming out saying, this doesn't look like, I know what it looked like prior to this with Vrabel, but this is what it looked like. And I just thought, shouldn't the head coach be doing this? You caused a lot of dysfunction with the problem you could have took care of before the season started.
615-737-1025. Your reaction to Jeffery Simmons' comments on Bussin' with the Boys about playing for Mike Vrabel and playing for Brian Callahan, and how Robert Saleh factors into all of this as well as the Titans chart a new path. 615-737-1025. We are broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service.
Let's talk Loan Pronto. Remember, it's 2026 now, and Loan Pronto wants to remind you that the rates for mortgage are down. They continue to be lower than they have in years. Right now, as a matter of fact, they are getting people to 4.89 fixed APR, the lowest in years. So let Loan Pronto help you. If you've got a bill or a mortgage percentage, as I said, at 6% or more, you've got to get that down because they could get you a much, much better deal when it comes down to it. This is going to save you thousands of dollars at times per month, depending on where you live, et cetera. But it's going to save you money. Or you can keep your first mortgage. If you need some cash out of your equity, Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan, that's another avenue you can use. You could pull from your home's equity and pay off other bills that have those really high interest rates that are eating up your monthly budget, like a credit card bill or a car loan. And you can, again, cut the monthly expenses by thousands. Call and see what option works best for you. But don't miss this rate drop of 2026. Loan Pronto can help you. Ask about new home loans, VA loans, full cash out refis, or the Rapid Equity Loan. Just call right now at 615-499-5780 or visit loanpronto.com for a free instant home appraisal. No hard credit pull. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, APR for well-qualified buyers, NMLS consumeraccess.org.
From Callahan's, it sounds like Callahan came in a little lighter, happy to be around. Look at us, kumbaya. Hey, look at all the good things we did, even though we lost. And then when it really comes crunch time, it's like we're spiraling. If he went and was hard on the guys all of a sudden, that's when you lose a locker room completely. So it's almost better to be extremely critical of your players, break them down foundationally, build them back up, and then be able to be their friends.
I think that's just called being a coach. You know, it's not, like I said, it's no knock. Like
We're not knocking Callahan.
I love Callahan. Like I text Callahan like right now, like, you know, he'll respond. But it just, when you're talking about the NFL. We
Mhm.
saw with this morning with with Buffalo.
McDermott?
With
Yeah.
Buffalo, like I'm sure that guy's a great leader. I'm sure he's hard as hell on the players. He loves his players. But this league is about winning. Like you don't win football games. You don't get the teams to where they need to be in the amount of time. You're gone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So being nice is not the way this thing's gonna work. You have to set your foundation. You have to have a strong set foundation.
That was Jeffery Simmons on Bussin' with the Boys, talking about the differences between Mike Vrabel and Brian Callahan. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Willie, I pulled up the article you referenced from Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated detailing Robert Saleh's interview process with the Titans and how he won the job. And here is a key paragraph. Quote, just as important was his, meaning Saleh's, approach to setting up the entire organization and his level of detail in areas such as sports science. He explained how he'd take care of the players while pushing them hard enough to create a callus. And through it all, he showed the sort of presence and leadership that the football people knew owner Amy Adams Strunk was looking for, the type that Mike Vrabel brought to the building from 2018 to 2023.
So it reminds them of Vrabel, but at the same time, one of the knocks on Vrabel that had the infamous press release was that they were behind the times in analytics and sports science. And there were all the soft tissue polls, and they went to artificial turf in the stadium because they were so mystified as to why everybody started getting hurt. So that's a little bit ironic to me, but I can see the comparison between Saleh and Vrabel.
I'm sure there is a comparison, between those two. Now, did they make the decision because of him talking about this innovative stuff? Because I vaguely remember them doing this, I think with the GM, that, we loved his analytics and this and that, how they're going to, then they end up hiring the GM. I don't know if that was Rand or Robinson that they were talking about that with. But either way, they end up firing both of them. And they love the analytic part of what they bring to a football team. Ultimately, what has to happen is that this team, now that Saleh's here, whether he is a rah-rah coach or not, there must be a respect there. Just holding, you don't have to be a mean coach. And you don't have to be a nice coach. But if you hold people accountable, that's all that matters. And this team had a lack of accountability. And that's why they are in the position that they're in now. Again, had to look for a new head coach because they had lacked accountability. No one was accountable to winning because it didn't happen. Nobody in that building was accountable to winning. Nobody. They can't tell us that they were. I'm not saying that this is a bad organization. I'm not like everybody else, like, this ranks with the Jets. No, because the Titans, prior to this stint, they had winning seasons. They've always had ups and downs, but they've had winning seasons. So this hasn't been a dormant franchise. But listen, if this organization, if the accountability was there, like it was with Vrabel, because that's what Vrabel was about. Vrabel, he wasn't mean to his players and that, but he held them all accountable, all of them, so they knew what to expect. They loved Vrabel. Like, you would think Vrabel was the nicest guy to them, but he held them all accountable.
Yes.
That was Callahan's
the argument.
problem. Yes, Callahan was a cool dude. That Jeffrey just said it. I don't know if he answered your text that quickly. Now that you just said that, he may let it wait for a couple hours before you answer you.
My ghost
But, exactly. But he was a nice guy, but he didn't hold y'all accountable.
I think the summary here, and you guys tell me if you agree, is that the Titans were chasing someone who reminded them of the one who got away, except they were the one that got away from him in Mike Vrabel. They were looking for someone who reminded them of Vrabel, and they believe they've landed on it with Robert Saleh. As I said before, they may be in a similar genre, but they are not the same coach. So did they settle on Diet Vrabel? Vrabel zero sugar? I don't know. We'll all find out together whether it works or not. But it is interesting that it appears that the presence that Vrabel left behind, again, the presence that they decided to move on from. And I don't remember a ton of people being completely bent out of shape about it at the time. I don't recall specifically how I felt when the Titans fired Mike Vrabel. But I do find it interesting that they're trying to fill the Vrabel-sized hole with perhaps the closest Vrabel-type coach out there.
Well, I thought it was time for him to go. I just thought that this thing was strained. They were not seeing eye to eye, and it was just best for he did what he did. It wasn't good toward the latter part of his tenure here, the last year and a half, somewhere around almost 2 years. The franchise, well, year and a half, because the franchise started to slip and they started to lose. So when he got fired, I was, hey, listen, she wanted her franchise back. She got it back. They ran their course. It was a short course, but they ran it. They had some good and bad. Now you just separate, and hopefully you can find a coach that can come in here and get the job done. Unfortunately for them, they're on their second coach now trying to get the job done.
One texter, Maddie, says, I was sure you were going to say Temu Vrabel. Temu's a little out of my league. I'm not hip enough.
Wish, would it be the Wish Vrabel?
I don't even know what that is. What is that?
Wish is basically like they would send you an item, like you see an item that's like a big item, but it'd be super small when they return to you.
Okay.
You see a Lamborghini, then you get the small version.
You can say like, oh, this is $1 million Lamborghini. It's a toy Lamborghini.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't do Temu. I'm too old for that. Let's go to Trey on our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com. Trey, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Hey guys, how y'all doing this afternoon?
Good, Trey.
Doing good, Trey.
On this rainy day. Hey, I just want to say that I'm glad that we picked Robert Saleh. You know, I've been requesting that for a long time. I guess somebody was listening to us because, you know, I think the buzz. And I really believe they really be listening to everybody over there on the stations and stuff. They just don't be doing stuff out of the blue. But I think that also that, you know, yeah, they interview 18 or 19 people, but they was like, oh, well, you know, this person, this, that. So I think they just, you know, put up this, you know, this list with 3 or 4 people on it. And then with Robert, you know, opened up and the 49ers lost, they was like, that's the dude. See, I believe he's the dude because he hasn't hit his plateau. He's like in the middle right there. And if we get him some good dudes over there, 2-3 years, we could be over in the playoffs and running the South again. That's what I believe. We 2-3 years away from being good, and we was that when Vrabel got fired and we hired Brian, but Brian didn't know how to lead the team. We ain't that bad of a team, y'all. We really not. We just need some placements. I think Robert is a good fit for us. I know he had a bad record over at the Jets, but I really do in my heart believe that he can lead Jeff and them into redemption. And, you know, it's going to be 2-3 years, but I believe that he could do it, you know, and I don't endorse people, you know, like that. I endorse, you know, y'all and stuff like that. But I'm endorsing this dude.
Okay.
You know, I endorse Coach Fisher. I endorse Vrabel. I'm endorsing this dude. I hope he do a good job, and I love y'all.
Thank you, Trey.
Thank you, Trey.
This
All
is
right,
Trey, and I approve this message.
Yes.
I have a question on the other side of the coin from Trey. Let's say that Amy Adams stuck with her proposition where she doubled down on Mike Vrabel when things were going south, and basically in, I think, November of the season said, no, he's the guy. There was some sort of public thing, right, where she said, no, Mike Vrabel is the man. And then she did a 180 by the end of that season.
Well, she signed him to a new deal. Did she extend the deal?
I don't remember all the details.
But both he and
it
Robinson.
sunk fast. So let's say that she showed patience and wrote it out with Vrabel and never made the coaching change. and he was still the coach today, what do you think the Titans' record would be the last 2 years?
I don't know. With this team,
with the players that they had,
man, maybe a win or two more.
So you think he might
Three,
be worth?
He
might be worth a couple of wins.
I
right?
think he'd have got about 5 wins.
Might be worth a few more wins, maybe 2 wins per season more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
is that fairly reasonable?
Yeah, because you got to remember when this roster started
and what would
going
be the
downhill.
result of that? You would probably at the end of the year have a lot of howling fans. Hey, it's getting stale. They need to make a change, which points me back to my main theme that I don't know that there was a single coach in the world ever. You can bring back whoever you think the greatest coach is, Vince Lombardi, you go back Tom Landry, pick a coach who you think is awesome. Could they have won with these last 2 Titans teams? I don't think so. Not maybe an extra, maybe an extra win or 2. But I think if they had stayed with Vrabel, I don't think we would be having this conversation of, oh my gosh, I can't believe they got rid of Vrabel. They're going to pay for that mistake. Had Vrabel stayed, I think he would have endured a lot of the same problems from a roster that they didn't draft well. The best players from a really good nucleus of a team for 4 or 5 years aged out. You had a young quarterback. That's a recipe for rebuild. There was no way to avoid it, no matter who the coach was.
615-737-1025 will continue to take your thoughts on the Titans and Robert Saleh. Again, that phone number, 615-737-1025. Speaking of that phone number, if you want a pair of tickets to see the Nashville Predators take on the Ottawa Senators tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena, be caller number 3 right now. 615-737-1025. Caller number 3 will win a pair of tickets to see the Predators take on the Senators tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. Puck drop at 7 o'clock. Speaking of those Predators, again, I have a quick Predators thought that I want to sneak in here before we get to Jonathan Hutton, based on something Barry Trotz said yesterday. We'll do that next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game.
Derek Mason here. If you injured yourself in a motorcycle accident, go to lawtigers.com for your free case evaluation. Even if your accident was months ago, you have nothing to lose by calling Law Tigers. Insurance companies want to pay out as little as possible, or frankly, nothing at all. But Law Tigers fights to get you the compensation you deserve, and they don't get paid until your case has been settled. Look, they understand how much your bike gear is worth to you, so they will help you get it all repaired, or better yet, replaced. So call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS or visit lawtigers.com. Law Tigers is powered by Freeman and Fuson, and you can find them in Nashville, located at 2126 21st Ave South. That's Nashville, Tennessee. And also, do not forget, people, go to the PretorsBike.com to enter to win a custom Nashville Predators Indian motorcycle signed by the entire team. So your favorites are on here, courtesy of Law Tigers and Music City Indians. Law Tigers, Tennessee's motorcycle lawyers.
The thing that makes him a really good player is the fact that, he really wasn't never drafted. He wasn't, expected to even make it. And all of a sudden he's had great success in a couple teams. He's been playoff MVP. He's won a Stanley Cup. So there's a lot of that. He still has terrific hands. He's still a hard guy in those tough areas. So we just got to get him feeling it again, get him caught up, and then try to, hopefully we get some chemistry with the right people. And I know he can produce. I keep talking about it. You get him with the right people, he's going to produce at a real high rate. That's why, even when there's talks of me, moving Marchie, if he goes to a team that has a couple people that are the right fit for him, he's going to get 30 goals every year. And he's still got a lot of good hockey on him.
That was Barry Trotz on our show yesterday discussing Jonathan Marchessault. The Predators, by the way, lost 5-3 last night to the Buffalo Sabres. They are 3 points out of the last playoff spot in the Western Conference. Nashville back in action tomorrow at home against Ottawa. 7 o'clock puck drop, 6 o'clock pregame, as always, right here on 102.5 The Game. And you know how I feel about the Predators. I still want them to sell at the trade deadline, despite getting back into the playoff race. And based on what Barry Trotz said yesterday, I think Jonathan Marchessault should be traded. As Trotz said, Willie, the Predators don't have a center who can get the most out of Marchessault. So I think it's imperative that they try to move him before the trade deadline.
Well, I think wrong mode, I think.
Willie is experiencing some technical difficulties. There he is. He was speechless. He had no take on my take.
We had to record something during the break. My thought on that is, when I listen to Barry Trotz talk about that, he clearly wants Jonathan Marchessault to get back to his best level, right? We just haven't seen Jonathan Marchessault's best level since the early part of the season before he got hurt. He did get off to a pretty darn good start. And there were some flashes of, okay, this is the guy that they thought they were signing on for. You have that feeling now with Steven Stamkos that you didn't have last year. Like, this is the Hall of Fame guy who can score goals. And Steven Stamkos has been getting a lot of credit for adapting to his new team. And to me, that really is the answer for Marchessault. He's got to adapt his game. He's not going to play with the type of center that maybe he's played with in the past, where he can play the same type of game, the tenacious, be around the net, crash in, score goals. He may not be a guy that can adapt as well as Stamkos, but I think he's got to find a way to be more of a winning player with this particular group, or else they're not going to get anything for him. He's got a no movement clause. He doesn't have to go anywhere. And so he's got to be willing to want to leave. But if you're telling me that you need him, that as is, he can go score 30 goals for another team, I don't know if the other team is going to sit there and sign up for that. They're certainly not going to give you anything for him. So right now, I think the project is get Jonathan Marchessault playing as well as he possibly can for this team, helping his team be more successful. They went 10-4 without him. So that had to be tough in some ways, right? When you're sitting out going, hey, when am I going to get back while the team needs me? Well, they've been winning without me. Like, where do I fit? I think he's got to find a way to fit and contribute. Then I think some good things can happen. Either that could lead to a valuable trade or just a happier, more productive Jonathan Marchessault. Either way, that's good.
You're right in that the Predators would be selling low right now on Jonathan Marchessault. But I thought perhaps the most telling comment that Trotz made yesterday in our interview with him, talking about the signings he made on July 1st, 2024, was that he failed in getting the sort of play-driving, play-making centers who could get the most out of Steven Stamkos and Jonathan Marchessault. Steven Stamkos has had the benefit of playing with Ryan O'Reilly. You hear Barry Trotz say that all the time. There's only one Ryan O'Reilly, and the other forwards are clamoring to play with Ryan O'Reilly. Well, Jonathan Marchessault hasn't had that opportunity. He's mostly been playing with Eric Halla as his center and Michael Bunting on the opposite wing. And there was a stretch last season. I looked this up. From roughly mid-December through late January, Marchessault had 25 points in 19 games, 10 goals, 15 assists. He was playing with Philip Forsberg and Steven Stamkos when Steven Stamkos got bumped to center with Forsberg and Marchessault on his wings. And that seemed to bring out the best.
Yeah,
in
that
Marchessault.
was probably one of the team's best stretches of the season. And that line did really well.
So you brought up the record without Marchessault in the lineup. And I'm not saying that they won more games without him because they didn't have him in the lineup. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that he's a losing player, because he absolutely is not a losing player. He's a Stanley Cup champion and a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Loser players don't have those accolades. But without him in the lineup, they were winning. I was watching the chemistry the players were developing without him. And then I started to wonder, Willie, where does he fit in all of this? You alluded to that earlier, but where does he fit in all of this? Where's the best place for him? Where's the place where they can get the most out of him, specifically at 5-on-5? And I don't see it.
That's why he's got to be something that we haven't seen since he's been a Predator for the most part, other than those flashes. And he did end up in a bad year having 56 points. And there's something to be said for that. This year, he's not tracking that way. So in some ways, he's been less effective this year because he's been injured 3 different times. And I don't know. It might be the same thing that keeps recurring. Hopefully he's got it right this time to where he feels good. Because I do think if you look at his first 4 or 5 games before he got hurt, he was making a bigger impact. He had some very good games early on in the season. But to answer your question, let's look at Eric Halla. Going back to what you said about Barry Trotz. First, they took the leap of faith in Tommy Novak. They didn't trade him. They thought, okay, it's hard to find centers. Let's see if Novak can be the second center. Didn't happen. They trade Novak. Novak really hasn't done anything since then. Even though Pittsburgh's having a good year, last I checked, I don't think Tommy Novak is having a lot to do with that. At least not up until recently. And I haven't looked at the last 10 or 15 games. Eric Halla was widely criticized in terms of, hey, why do you want Eric Halla? Eric Halla has been, would we agree, a pretty significant upgrade over Novak last year. True? The penalty kills. He's been serviceable. He's not the ideal second line center, but he has done pretty well. And Michael Bunting has had a very good year alongside of him. So it's not just Marchessault doesn't have the center. Bunting has figured out how to be pretty productive with Halla. Steven Stamkos has been on Halla's line. He's had some good games. So I bring it back to Marchessault. Somewhere Marchessault's got to find a way to force his way up the lineup. Be more effective with the other guys. Find a way. And then, like I said, good things are going to happen. Either they're going to want to keep him, or his value will be enough to where somebody he's interested in wants him.
He has 3 years left on his contract at $5.5 million per season. So I can't imagine the Predators are going to want to retain salary on that and have dead cap space for 3 more seasons. One texter points out that he will only play for a team in a state with no income tax. So his potential targets are very small. Florida, Texas, Nevada, or Tennessee only. One slight correction. There is one more non-tax state that people often forget. Washington. So you could throw the Kraken into that mix as well, because Washington does not have state income tax. But to the texter's point, we had these conversations with our friend Elliot Freeman, who will join us tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We had these conversations with Elliot last season, and he mentioned, well, Marchessault, I think he would prefer to play for a team located in a state with no income tax because that's all he's known. He started his career in Florida and Tampa Bay, then went to Vegas, and then came here. And $5.5 million goes further here than it would in Montreal, for example.
Right,
So,
where he's from.
Yes.
And that was a lot of speculation that maybe he would be a fit in Montreal, but he would be giving up a lot more of his paycheck in going there. So apparently there's been some pushback behind the scenes. I don't know. But He's got to play better. He's only been off of the injured list for 2 games. So we have to give him a little bit of time, but they need more from him. He needs to find a way to contribute to the team and be closer to what they signed him for. To me, it's not the contract. He is 35, but $5 million in the coming years in the cap, it's not going to be that expensive, really, for a guy that, if Barry Trotz is right, let's conservatively say he's a guy that could give you 20 to 25 goals over the next few years per season.
One texter is calling Marchessault Kyle Turris 2.0. You don't want to be compared to Kyle Turris.
Fell off a cliff.
He absolutely did fall off a cliff. So I heard that from Trotz yesterday as he was answering your question about Marchessault, and that stood out to me about, hey, people talk about me trading him, and if he goes to a team with a center, he's going to score 30 goals. Well, unfortunately for the Predators, I don't think that center exists here, at least one who can play with Marchessault, because Ryan O'Reilly is spoken for. So I am curious to see what happens with him. As you said, he has control over his situation. So if he doesn't want to go anywhere, he doesn't have to. But as the Predators were winning more consistently without him in the lineup, again, I'm not saying him not being in the lineup was the reason they weren't winning, or they were winning more consistently. But it did make me think, like, is there a role for him here? I genuinely wonder. 615-737-1025. The Predators are back in action tomorrow night against the Ottawa Senators. We will be live at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow. But coming up next, Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow will join us. We'll talk Robert Saleh. We'll talk college football playoff national championship. We'll get Hutton's thoughts on Derek's Indiana take yesterday. That was a doozy. We'll do that all with our friend Jonathan Hutton coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, David Janes, Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow is with us as he is every Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
go.
Hi, Hutton. How are you?
I'm doing well, preparing for Snowmageddon here in the Gulch.
So you're not at Costco?
No, everyone else is, though, apparently.
We did get a call from someone at Costco earlier in the show. So,
no, that's a great idea, is to have managers check in with you on what's available. Hey, real quick, it's odd to me that the meteorologists, as of last night, would not give like a projection of snowfall. You know, there's a 7-day forecast. You know, like I've just noticed that this go around, it's not like, here's what we're expecting. It's they waited on the weather alert, which is fine, but you know, normally it's Snowmageddon and it turns into a dusting. I think this is going to be
it's going to be a dusting.
Quite the sledding that will happen over the weekend.
I am not looking forward to it. But Hutton, since we haven't had you on since the Titans hired Robert Saleh, let's just start with your thoughts on the Titans hiring Robert Saleh.
You know, I'm trying not to go overboard with the hire or undersell this either. I do have thoughts on all this. Like the Borgonzi had his options. Okay, like let's start with Robert Saleh, who they've hired. He's not Mike Vrabel, but he is the closest coach to Mike Vrabel like. You know, it's the opposite of what they just had, yes. But I think it's very important to note, and I don't think it's a small factor, that they just hired a coach that if you did not play for Mike Vrabel here, it's going to be jarring when you get back to OTAs. It's going to be the opposite. Like Denard Wilson was the one that would like chew your ass out after at a team meeting. Jeffery Simmons is saying that on Bussin' with the Boys. It wasn't Callahan, you know, but it was always Vrabel. Like it's going to be stepped up a notch. Simmons said it was weird that just plain okay was okay. That was not the standard. And I think for sure, and I know for certain they've hired a coach that will not let that happen. So I think that's important. And that's what was needed. This wasn't a Matt Nagy hire, but I've really gone back and forth on the Amy Adams Strunk and ownership playing a role in this, because Amy Adams Strunk empowered Borgonzi. Then all of a sudden she wants Saleh. Here's why I'm going back and forth on it. Borgonzi is the person who made him a finalist to begin with. He put him in front of Amy Adams Strunk. She wasn't clamoring for Jason Garrett or any of these Steve Spagnuolo or you know, Mike Kafka. You know, it was Borgonzi who had been working this job for months, like since Halloween. And it didn't just start after a random 49ers loss in the playoffs. I think that's where this thing kind of gets a little crooked for me, because he chose to fly him in and interview him after Matt Nagy, not before. It was the closing interview in this. And I don't believe that Teron Davenport's reporting something that he wasn't told. But the assumption I have is this came from one obvious corner of the four corners of possible sources. This wasn't from Saleh. It wasn't from ownership. We know that. It wasn't from Borgonzi. This was from the Matt Nagy corner. This was from Trace Armstrong, the agent, who also represents Mike McCarthy, who conveniently bowed out of this right before they announced the finalist list. I don't think what TD reported was inaccurate, but it was redacted and changed. And Schefter even went with it, which to me is why I assume it's Trace Armstrong or the agency who's, giving a reason why their client wasn't hired. That's my take on it. I may be way off, but let me also add, I don't know, and anyone saying that they do know for sure what happened or didn't, how convenient it is that you forget that Amy Adams Strunk fired the coach in week 6 when the football guys didn't want to do it at that time. So just keep that in mind, because we who knows what went down in all this.
So do you feel, Hutton, that the perception that Amy Adams Strunk may have stepped in, do you think that it presents the case that Mike Borgonzi's credibility has been undermined, perhaps?
No. I think it's a way to frame this. If you're trying to describe one side of this versus the other, meaning the story to me didn't really change. It just the description changed to be more about who was on board with Saleh instead of who was on board with Nagy. That was the first description, was Nagy. Then it flipped to who was behind Saleh. Diana Rossini has said that she was not told that everyone was on board with Matt Nagy, but she was told everyone was on board with Saleh. So there's not just one or two people on this. It's just the way that that it's framed. That's what was changed here. And I think it depends on which corner you're talking to. And it makes total sense why Trace Armstrong, who knows, maybe he was told that went down. And he told a reporter about it and told multiple, because again, Schefter went with it and also deleted the tweet.
So what it sounds like, it's more so about personality of the two coaches than anything, because
absolutely, Mace. Mm-hmm. It was the personality of one. I think the thing about Robert Saleh is when he is in front of a team, when he meets with the media, when fans see him for the first time, again, it will be more like the front facing. You know, you've got your CEO of the locker room right there, of the team. Mm-hmm. You know, there's not 5 or 6 guys that are spitting out messages to different positions. And again, like I think what this is, Mace, is Saleh, I think, was able to truly map out the identity of who that team would be. The fact that you would be able to describe where you want to be and have backup options if things don't go well with a coordinator that you want, a quarterback coach that you want. And I think it's about the leadership of the entire team instead of the leadership of one player. The one player is extremely important in this, but there's another player who had a huge voice. I think it's obvious that Jeffery Simmons played a factor in this. Not a major one, but he was heard. Again, if you haven't watched him, he was doing Bussin' with the Boys prior to the hire being made, and he's laying it out there that it's Saleh, and why he wants a defensive-minded coach, and just the description of the vibe of the team the last 2 years compared to what he wants and how he's frustrated with that. Saleh is a great talent developer. Mm-hmm. Look what he's done in San Francisco, and then what happens whenever he leaves, and then all the injuries and just letting players play. I think that's crucial, and I think what we don't know with this is, and I just that's why I'm trying to stay even with this. I don't know if what he's going to adjust and change from what didn't go right in New York is just the perfect decision moving forward, and the staff is crucial. I want to see the staff before I make up my mind on this, because again, it's not just one coach either. I think it's the collection of all the coaches that he's bringing with him, or at least laid out there.
Now, speaking of staff, obviously they're looking for a OC. Don't know what they're going to do in title and in regards to the DC, but OC. And we assume that if Daboll doesn't take the Bills job, it will be Daboll. We've tried to scour the internet for some type of connection between these two. Well, we did get one via Blatt. What was it? The guy that we had on
Rosenblatt.
Yeah, Rosenblatt. I'll say Blatt. Like Paul Blatt.
Zach Rosenblatt of the Athletic.
Exactly. It was, what did he invite him over for a pool, to his pool? Or
they were
like
the coach, Giants and Jets coaches.
And
they lived in the same area.
Invite him over, to use his pool. So beyond that, we don't know if there is truly a friendship or history with these two guys. So I'm saying all that to say this. how do we know that he's not walking into the same situation that he walked into with the Jets, where you're hiring him to be your coach, but then you are picking his OC or DC? You're picking his coaching staff instead of trusting him and letting him pick who his coaching staff is going to be. That's the part I'm kind of fuzzy about.
Mace, I don't think they're dictating that with Saleh.
Okay.
To that extent, I don't know why he would want this job if they're doing that. Like he's, I mean, on his side, this was his first choice because I think he's been able to put some things together. And again, like I'm not saying this happened, but I'm also not naive enough to think that they haven't talked. Over the last few months. Like, come on, like, what are we talking about here? Brady's on a yacht down with the Miami owner during free agency right before. Like, I mean, this. I mean, I would be trying to figure out ways to assess who's interested and who's not. And I would be talking with people. I've always thought that they've been talking with coaches that are going to be a part of the staff the entire time. So the collection of coaches that they've talked to, it varies based on experience, line of scrimmage, what they've done. But there are a lot of connections that we all made with Nagy that Saleh could also have connections with LaFleur, his brother. And of course, with the connections that he's had with San Francisco and Shanahan. I mean, I tend to think that Borgonzi's done enough channeling here. And look, let's also say Saleh came in with a clear plan and then a backup plan. And I mean, as quickly as things went down with McDaniel, I don't know if that's the first option that Saleh was pitching in his interview because it happened so fast.
Do you think Daboll is a fit?
Willie, I think as a coordinator, if we're going to look at if I'm going to look at Saleh and say defensive coach, excellent. We saw what Daboll did with Josh Allen in the early years. He wasn't known as being an accurate quarterback, and then he became one. Now that's rare, but the coach tied to him. The success he had is the reason why he got the head coaching job. I mean, I think he's enough of a fit, Willie, to where he's not going to be a coordinator for very long if he's a coordinator. Now, I don't have a problem with Saleh calling the defensive plays at all. And I think when you're doing the craft that allowed you to climb the ladder and you're that good at it, by all means, get back to doing that. And Daboll will be getting back to what he's done best. And again, I think it's developing the talent behind the scenes and, who he's paired with his staff and the quarterback coach. I think of the options. It's really good.
I hear a lot of this. Hey, Saleh was 20-36 with the Jets, so he can't be good. And I also hear alongside a lot of around town as the Patriots have marched into this position and are the favorite to win the AFC in Vrabel's first year. Wow, the Titans are really paying a price for letting Mike Vrabel go. So to illustrate my point, I want to ask you a question. What do you think the Titans' team record would be the last 2 years had they kept Vrabel?
I mean, they're winning more games than what we saw happen. But I mean, he's not keeping his job.
I think that's an interesting question. Is would they have fired him along the way in one of these seasons? They're beating the
Raiders, for instance. Like they're beating the teams that were just awful, that were frustrating to watch this team play. Like that's what I'm saying. Like they would be running the football all season instead of the second half of the season, right? Like they would be helping their quarterback out more than that.
So you think he's worth a reasonable amount of additional success, but not enough to make them a playoff team the last couple of years? There still would have been a lot of howling.
This roster was awful. I mean, the depth of this roster, and again, it wasn't like Vrabel won 10 games the final year he was here. I think it's similar to that, but they're winning more than 3 games a season. But it's not enough to keep his job. I think if Vrabel stuck around, he was probably fired mid-season based on the way the roster was, quite frankly, with the quarterback situation that he would have had and the structure of the hierarchy of who's making the decisions. Now everything's in line here, and I think that's crucial with this. Everybody's paired up, And let's also say, like, you know, from the perception of the Titans now have aspects to point to where you feel confident that they have an advantage somewhere on game day. Saleh as a defensive coach, I have no issue going into a game that he's planned for. I couldn't say that about anything with this team the last 2 years, quite frankly. Like where you just look at a position and say, this is how they – I mean, you had to scramble week after week. I mean, you guys know. It was the same song, different verse every week in describing this team. That's what would have been different. But the playoffs, no. This team wasn't going to sniff that, given their depth and the lack of talent. They don't have enough elite players.
That's why I also conclude that I'm not sure any coach could have won with the Jets, with the teams that Saleh had, given the circumstances at quarterback. Maybe a little closer, maybe not as extreme as these last couple of Titans teams, but when Zach Wilson is your quarterback and you have a bad offensive line, I mean, it's hard to overcome.
Well, and then let's throw in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was the alpha in New York. When he got to Pittsburgh, Mike Tomlin was that dude. Mike Tomlin runs the Pittsburgh Steelers, or did, not Aaron Rodgers. In New York, it was Aaron Rodgers who ran that. So it just from that mentality, that's what the Titans really missed, was the top dog and who everyone looks to. I think that was just they went with the opposite of Vrabel. Now they've realized they got to get back to it, and it was Borgonzi who saw that. I mean, he sat at the podium by himself and described that at the trade deadline on what they were looking for and how they wanted to describe the next coach. They want every player, and Jeffery Simmons is talking about this during the season, how they need more leadership and how they're pointing to, after a loss, not rushing for 100 yards in the game, but praising the running back who, made a play in the game. I get what he's saying. That's not the standard you want in order to have everyone follow the head coach.
Hutton, before we let you go, I want to get your thoughts on Indiana's win against Miami, but more specifically, I want Derek Mason to share his take from our show yesterday.
Oh, gosh.
Because he and Willie had a spirited debate about the uniqueness of what Indiana just accomplished. Derek, can you provide Hutton with your take so that he can react to it, please?
Can I predict this? Can I predict real quick?
Go ahead.
Mace, I'm going to say that you don't think it's worth all the hype that Indiana.
We are prisoners of the moment. Indiana, they did a great job this season. Great job. Signetti, I mean, he's going to continue to win, especially with.
This is a unique take here.
Yeah, especially with how the world of college football or sports is now, NIL transfers. Yep. But to me, it's not like we act as if, not all of us, but there are a large majority, we act as if like this is like the second coming to Disney World open or Disneyland when they first opened, or, when sliced bread first hit the tables, everybody just went crazy. Hot bread, oh my goodness, there's nothing like it. I get that Indiana, I don't know what year it was either way.
I'm really surprised you're doing this.
I get that Indiana won a championship and they hadn't won one ever. But I can go back to teams that hadn't won championships ever, and they finally won one.
Sliced bread was first sold in 1927.
See, 1927, they thought that was the best thing in the world. Everybody, lines down around the corner.
The last time a team won a championship for the first time in college football, and it recently was the Florida Gators.
Was it Florida?
96.
Yeah, 96.
Yeah, it's been a while, Mace.
Okay, 96. But we didn't think back then, at least I didn't. I was still in college, that, oh my goodness, this is the greatest thing that Florida won.
No. Sure.
All I'm saying is it's a really good story. But because of the landscape of college football and college sports now, you didn't think this wasn't going to happen? I think people walk around like, oh, this was never going to happen. Whereas the minute they open up the floodgates, more of this is going to start happening.
Here's the thing, though. NIL, this is the good side of NIL to me. The fact that Vandy and Indiana, Northwestern, who battles Indiana for the most losses in college, they can do this now. This was created by that, but it's not like the difference here, Mace, is Indiana has players who transfer in and don't transfer out. every single year. It's just a merry-go-round of talent.
Mhm.
But these dudes buy in. Like there's a culture that immediately happened. And in this era, that does not happen. Culture is out the door. But they had it, and they had it immediately with a 2-year-old coach who's been under the radar for I don't know how that's possible. Let's just start there. Like the whole chemistry with the team and how it clicked, and even year one, how far they made it with him. And he pointed that out. Signetti pointed that out in the post-game presser. Like the first team deserves more credit for what they did. This is only year two, and their success is why. I mean, we already saw 30 some odd % of SEC coaches get fired. It's why Heupel's gonna be on the hot seat next year. It's because of Kurt Signetti in Indiana, not because of Ohio State, for instance. Like that's the difference in this. Is it's Indiana doing it this fast, and Vanderbilt went to a bowl game in Florida. Like there's a huge difference in the success, even though Vanderbilt also had a Heisman Trophy finalist.
Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow has been our guest on D-Mace.
Hey, I love it, Mace. I love this.
Hey, I just want to give people the other side of it,
As one texter says, sounds like a salty Spartan to me.
No, hey, Big Ten won
Sounds
another
like a basketball argument.
A Big Ten won another one, so hey.
Hey, no doubt, man.
Hey.
They're owning everything right now. You're right.
Jonathan Hutton
right.
from Outkick has been our guest on D-Mace. Ving and Donahue joins us every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Hutton, great stuff as always. We'll catch up next week.
Let's rally at the Capitol on Saturday and sled down the hill, shall we?
Hey, if we can make it over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll try.
All right.
Later.
615-737-1025. We'll continue the conversation around the Titans. Are any of us surprised? I'm not saying anything's bad happening, but are we surprised that this has not been officially announced yet? That Robert Saleh is the head coach? Are you surprised by this?
Probably. No, I'm not, because I think once they make that announcement, I think they want his family and everybody here, and they're looking for a place and everything else. So it doesn't have to be this kind of sort of back and forth, even though they may have to do that anyway.
I mean, Jim Wyatt hasn't tweeted in 2 days.
They told him, hey, put it on ice for a minute.
And the last time he tweeted was the Titans have completed interviews with Matt Nagy and Robert Saleh as finalists for the head coach job. Are you surprised, Willie?
I am a little surprised.
Okay.
I am a little surprised, but I'm not sitting there going, the deal's going to fall through
Right,
or anything like that, but I am surprised.
You think they're waiting?
And I don't really know why.
You think they're waiting? Do you believe they're closer to finding their OC and they want to wait so they can do it all in one swoop?
I don't know if you wait
to me,
on
that's
that.
not a reason to do
I'm
it.
just throwing things out there.
It could be why.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't keep that from having the Robert Saleh day. I want that to be a big thing. I don't know if there's a day that they think is better. I hope they don't do it like Friday evening when everybody's getting ready for this whole storm thing. Like I feel like they need to, if they want to really make this a big thing, it should be soon.
615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingen, 1025 The Game.
Hey, Derek Mason here, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution or some type of goal to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But I got some good news, because at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his team understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffery Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain with tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. You know why? Because they've done the same for me. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
obviously with the Keon Coleman signing, which hasn't worked out. How do you answer the fact that you have not given Josh a good enough wide receiver room thus far?
Yeah, I mean, can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, you know, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it. But I'm here to tell you the true story.
Wow. So that was Buffalo Bills owner Terry Pegula interrupting a question asked to Bills general manager Brandon Beane about Keon Coleman. And when I heard that earlier, guys, I laughed because what's the one thing we say so much about Amy Adams-Strunk? She doesn't hold news conferences. She should hold news conferences, which I do think she should.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think the fear of the Titans organization and probably many other NFL organizations is that you get a moment like that where the owner of a team completely throws a top draft pick under the bus.
Man, that is just so disappointing. That is just so disappointing. Players, I mean, Josh should say something. Like, he really should. That's something that I don't think, because now it's, well, I don't want you, meaning owner. GM don't want you. He's coming back. It's a new coaching staff. So basically, they just put a lot of the blame on drafting you. And how do you think that make a player feel when he comes into the building or when he hears this? It's like, seriously, man, how did I catch a stray in all of this? I know the answer. I know the reporter asked the question, but y'all could have answered that in a different way. It was almost like you went out of your way to make it look bad on McDermott. The coaches wanted him. So the GM was a team player. How about maybe one of those dudes that the GM wanted that ain't doing good now that the coaches didn't want it? He won't say anything about that. That is bull, you know what? And Josh Allen should say something about that because he may have to count on this guy next year if they don't move him. Now you got a guy sitting, oh, do I even belong? Do y'all want me? Like, see, how can an owner like make a player feel that way? That pisses me off. It really does. It really does. If I'm players now, say what you want to say about owners, because it seems like nowadays they're saying what in the hell they want to say about you, and there's no ramifications for it. That's just unprofessional for that owner to do that. Period.
Pegula,
that ain't gonna make Bills fans like you anymore. You didn't fire their head coach.
Pegula claimed that he felt the Bills hit the quote-unquote proverbial playoff wall year after year. He did not fire McDermott simply because they lost the game over the weekend on what he said, and a lot of people have said, was a bad call on the interception of Brandon Cooks. But I just couldn't help but laugh when I heard that, Willie, because of all the time we talk about, hey, Amy Adams-Strunk, she needs to be out there. She needs to talk to us. We need to hear from her. And then you see what happens when an owner gets in front of a microphone sometimes.
You have to, as D-Base was saying earlier about head coaches, you have to be yourself. But at the same time, if you know as a strength you're not really good in press conferences, then you probably are better off not doing the press conference. Which that is not to necessarily defend Amy Adams-Strunk, but if you know what you're not good at, I can't really blame you for saying, you know, I'm only going to end up looking bad if I go out there because this is just not my area of strength.
Let's go to our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Mark in Nashville. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, how you doing, Adam, D. Mace, Willie? Hey, man, you know, it's kind of late. It's done got dark out here, man. But, hey, look, D. Mace, I understand, look, Coleman's hadn't had a productive career with Buffalo. He's had a lot of drops. He hadn't really looked like he hadn't really learned the playbook or the system with them at times, man. He hadn't been what they thought he would be, and I get that. But to throw him under the bus, no, man, that's really cold. Just like you said, they shouldn't have did that. And hey, look, they were gonna fire McDermott anyway, unless he did get them to a Super Bowl. Had nothing to do with a catch or a bad play or penalty or Josh Allen's play out there. He didn't win the game. Now, should they have won the game? I thought they should have, but they didn't. But why I got you on here, D Mace?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna talk to you just a second. Kurt Cincinnati, I believe he's gonna win a couple of national championships for Indy.
He may just win more.
Yeah, D-Mace, I know. I ain't saying you're hating on them, but D-Mace, they are in a lot better shape than 110 and 101 Pat Fitzgerald. Because y'all be lucky if y'all even get to a Liberty Bowl down in Memphis. We'd be lucky we even see Michigan State.
Hey, man. Hey. Mark, hey, I let you go. You done went too far with my Spartans, man.
hey, D-Mace, I had to come with you on that right there. But hey, Willie, I'm gonna holler at you again about the Mets before I go. See, I'm gonna close the show for y'all today. Pay me when I can. But listen, look, Willie, Luis Roberts from the China Sox, another good pickup yesterday, Willie.
Hey,
another good
thanks.
pickup the other day.
You like that?
Yeah, Willie. Hey, Willie, I'm starting to like the Mets a little bit, man. I really am.
That's scary. That's very scary. The Mets usually don't pick up new fans of your ilk.
Yeah, Willie, I'm doing it for you, man, because you know I am trying to get up. You know I am trying to get on that lucky dog thing with you. So I gotta go on and do what I gotta do, Will. I gotta politic with you and stuff. So hey, Will, I love the Mets right now. I'm a Mets fan, man. I'm gonna go get me a coat, a hat, a jersey. I'm gonna even give me a Juan Soto jersey, Willie. I'm gonna wear it around, man.
Oh.
Yeah, I love the Mets right now, man. Yeah, think about that, the commish, while you sitting there listening to me on the radio. But hey, Adam.
Hi, Mark.
Okay, man.
What's up?
You're doing okay, right?
I am. Thank you for asking.
Okay. I noticed you didn't bring up sugar-free today.
I was just about to.
Yeah, I know.
I hope that you
man.
and Sugar Free have plans for this snowstorm.
Oh, yeah, big plans, Adam. Big plans. Destiny's on our side. You're right about that. Big plans.
Oh, boy. Thank you, as always, Mark, for the call. We appreciate you.
What did he call it? It's not silly dog. Yeah.
Lucky dog.
Lucky dog.
Lucky dogs. Yeah.
He meant silly underdog.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe we should start a lucky dog.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Do we need a show dog?
Would you become the commissioner of Lucky Dog?
I don't know. That's too much responsibility.
Oh,
You're not the
man.
commissioner of anything right now.
Yeah, you're not.
You're available.
Well, excuse me.
You are assistant commissioner.
I am acting commissioner when Willie Donick is unavailable.
Which means you assistant
and I just try to dock points from everybody. That's what I like to do.
And that's why
I'm drunk with power.
Be commissioner.
That's why I'm drunk with power. 615-737-1025. That's been a tough week for Willie's Commodores. We'll talk about that and wrap up the show. Coming up next, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025 The Game. D-Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5. The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We will be live at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow, where the Predators will host the Senators. Say that 3 times fast. I even tripped over my own tongue trying to make that joke. Coming up next, Smashville live at Brewhouse 100 in Bellevue. Max Hers, Kara Hammer, Cole Smith, Michael McCarron. So if you're on your way there,
a great quartet there to take you through the whole hour.
And then Willie and I will bring you Preds Insiders starting at 7 o'clock. So plenty of hockey talk upcoming on 102.5 The Game. By the way, one texter says, Lucky Dogs equals pitching whoopee circa 2026. Derek missed this last week. I combined pitching woo and making whoopee into pitching whoopee.
And nobody knew what the heck you were talking about.
Well,
me.
Ian Rappaport made a comment about the Titans attempting to woo John Harbaugh. And I said, I appreciate the usage of the word woo. We don't talk about pitching, making woo or making whoopee or whatever the hell I said. But I combined pitching woo and making whoopee into pitching whoopee.
Pitching whoopee. Okay. You can't.
It set the bar high at the beginning of the show with a big level of confusion.
I'm making it into a drop right now.
Yes,
so
it was
pitching whoopee.
Pitching whoopee.
Yeah, I got it.
Pitching whoopee.
You don't want to be pitching whoopee. You don't.
I think we can all conclude that's true.
Exactly. But go ahead. We're about to talk about
Is pitching whoopee a sequel of A League of Their Own? Was Whoopi Goldberg wasn't in A League of Their Own, was she?
No.
Okay.
You've confused people further.
Yeah, no, just leave it alone. We'll talk about it later. You don't want to pitch Whoopi.
Okay. All right. Fine. Whatever.
We're not talking about Whoopi Goldberg.
No, we're not talking about Whoopi Goldberg. All right. Let me get the show back on track. When something goes wrong in my house, my 4-year-old son Arlo likes to say, "We got problems." And Vanderbilt men's basketball, they got problems. The Commodores lost 93-68 at Arkansas last night, their 3rd consecutive loss after a 16-0 start, which matched the best start in program history. Willie, I hate to report this to you, but the Commodores were outscored 50-22 in the paint, and the front court issues continue to rear their ugly head, particularly in conference play.
Yes, I think that you could see coming the last few games is that perimeter defense, they foul too much. They can get into foul trouble. They don't have a big front line. They're bigger than they were last year. They've got a little more depth, but it's still an issue when they face size. And I thought they played very well against Florida on Saturday. That was just a great college basketball game, just a great game. And it came down to the last couple possessions. So, that a bounce of the ball either way, that's how close that game was, really. So they're not far removed from playing at a pretty high level. And I think you can have a clunker on the road. I would chalk up the Texas game as a clunker on the road. Texas was jacked up. They got an undefeated team coming in. Mm-hmm. Texas has got some talent. They've got a really good coach. And Texas was really hot that night. The last night, I didn't really get to see anything. I was calling the Predators game. So, but I know Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Arkansas is the type of team, and they crushed Vanderbilt at Memorial Gym last year for the same reason. Length, size in the middle, athleticism at the rim. That is a tough matchup for Vanderbilt. I think Vanderbilt will be back, but this is a really good mental test. Like, they were sailing along. Remember the stat you shared, Adam, that they had trailed for 22 minutes or something going into the Texas game? No college basketball season goes like that. You're going to go through some tough times. This is probably a good thing that it's happening now. So hopefully this will strengthen them, have them stay hungry, go back and figure out how to address the weaknesses, and maybe recalibrate a little bit. They're not going to be 29-3 or anything like that, but I think they can still be a really, really good Vanderbilt team.
what is starting to show up is what I feared with Vandy. Vandy, they play hard. They're physical for not being this big team, but they are physical. But they're just not. Eventually, good bigger teams wear them down, or they wear themselves down by playing so hard. Because there's a reason why, in the first half, like toward the end and in the latter part of the games, it seems like they get worn out. They stop moving their feet. They start reaching, which hence are fouls now. I'm not sure the brand of basketball that they play from a defensive side, it's going to be hard to hold up in the SEC because the SEC is so physical and they're big. There's some teams, the really good teams are big. Vandy's a good team. I think they would be even better if they had some size in the middle. Tanner, he's going to have to. Akoff really showed him up last night. Akoff, which is Arkansas's 5-star guard. This kid's good. He showed him that he needs to get back in the weight room, Tanner, because Akoff, he's just a big, he played bully ball at times. And I think Tanner's a damn good player. But this team, they play physical, but it's just they don't have any inside true presence defensively, not just offensively, but it's defensively. And when you're playing that hard defense and you don't have a big backcourt or deep backcourt, it's going to be hard for you later in the game when other teams can bring on these other big guys. And they may not be scoring, but they're wearing you down. And now you're not playing the type of defense that you're known for playing, moving your feet. Now you're reaching and trying to compensate for you either not having the size or you being tired. I hope it gets better with Vandy moving forward. I think they're going to be their tournament team, but once this SEC is going to be a gauntlet for them. It's really going to test them mentally and physically. And it may be for the better once they get into the tournament.
Vanderbilt's defensive efficiency, 2-point defense, and offensive rebounding rate all rank last in the SEC in conference play, according to KenPom, according to The Athletic. The Commodores are back in action on Saturday on the road at Mississippi State. That is a 5 p.m. tip-off. So we'll see if the Commodores can halt their 3-game losing streak against Mississippi State over the weekend. Quickly, let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County, Hyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Dr. Locke. Thank you for waiting. Please go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, fellas? What's up, D-Mace?
Hey, what's going on, Doc?
Hey, I wanted to call. I called in this morning when Paul Kaharski was on, and that was interesting in itself. I got scoffed off the line and cut off, and I wasn't even able to make my point. And I wasn't even 30 seconds in before I was cut off. But what I was calling is, as far as Harbaugh, I felt we lost Harbaugh because we weren't decisive. We didn't even get to pitch it. I'm in the automotive business. I'm a general sales manager, so it's me, the GM, the owner. If I got fired and before I even got home, the owner of another car dealership called me and said, take some time, talk to your wife, call me whenever you want. But before I even got home, called me. That means something. Paul was quick to say, oh, that doesn't mean anything because we didn't get to pitch him. Nike would have never got Michael Jordan if they didn't pitch him. We didn't get Harbaugh. Not saying we would or wouldn't. We didn't even get to pitch him because we drug our feet. And then when we finally said we're going to go, we went. I think we lost McDaniel for the same reason. I mean, we didn't get to pitch him. And then, I was told, well, he knows all about us. Look, I guess, you can't assume he knows all about us. Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. We're not even getting a pitch. If you can't pitch somebody, you can't sell somebody. There's salesmen that can make a Honda sound or Hyundai sound better than a Honda. But if you don't get a chance to pitch that, you're not going to win. And as far as an OC, I didn't want to see us end up with Nagy. You guys know I'm an Ohio State fan, right? I mean, clearly. Fields went to Chicago, and I watched a lot of game film just checking in on him, right? It was run on first down, run on second down. You're behind the chains, and then he had to scramble around, and it was a horrible experience watching him be coached as bad as he was in Chicago. Run first down, run second down behind the chains, ultimately failed out. We don't want Nagy, because if Nagy was any good, he'd be getting recontracted. They're not even going to sign him at Kansas City. So we don't want to go down that road. We lost McDaniel. I just think we got to be more decisive, and to sit back and scoff Karhowski and those two chuckleheads, Robbie and Rock Rexroad, and say, "Oh, Dr. Locke doesn't have a point. It doesn't matter how soon you pitch somebody." D-Mace, come on, you got to give me. If you take forever and don't even get a chance to pitch a candidate, how can you honestly debate me and say that doesn't affect whether they come here?
Thank you for the call, Dr. Locke. We gave you more than the 30 seconds that Robbie and Rexford apparently gave you. I hope you do feel a little bit better now.
Listen, they didn't get a chance to pitch him because John didn't give him a chance.
I do think he was running the show.
Yeah,
I don't know that they really had control over that.
Exactly. And that's what, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. If they had a chance to pitch him, that he probably wouldn't have, changed his mind and took the Titans job instead of, going to York. But a lot of this was in John's hands. With a coach like that, winning pedigree, has a Super Bowl up under his belt, you call a shot. You make everybody wait on you. And that's what John did. I'm sure if the Titans would have been able to get in front of him as they had planned, maybe it would have turned out different. I don't know. Maybe he would have sat back and thought about it a little bit longer. But he didn't even give them a chance. He said, "I'm going to New York."
Well, he's the Giants coach now.
Yeah.
And the Titans have Robert Saleh. And we will continue the conversation regarding Robert Saleh and the Titans tomorrow, live from Bridgestone Arena. We'll talk about other things too. We will be there for Predators versus Senators. Elliot Freeman, Sportsnet NHL Insider, will join us as he always does Thursday at 5 o'clock. Smashville Live is coming up next with Kara Hammer, Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and the star of the show, Max, high maintenance hers. Max, I have one piece of advice for you, Max, if you're listening. Don't bully Michael McCarron and Cole Smith the way you try to bully me at Barrel House on game days, okay?
I think you're a little more easier to bully.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing up some bad memories, David. But that'll do it for us. Smashville Live coming up next.
Be loved. Love of your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Wednesday. I love you. The team loves you. Hear that music. Don't you forget about us, because we will not forget about you. See you tomorrow at 3 p.m. live from Bridgestone, where the Predators play tomorrow. Peace.